and the national elections has been described as one of the worst in this country's electoral process. Questions are being raised. By what metrics? What's your analysis?
Well, I'll be careful to speak strictly to only what I know, either to be facts or what I witnessed on my own. What happened on the 25th of February might be evaluated in two parts. The first part should deal with the people themselves. The Nigerian people, I can speak specifically to Lagos State because this is where I reside. The Nigerian people turned out in their numbers, in unprecedented numbers, to exercise their franchise. That is not in consonance with what had happened before that day, the level of citizens' engagement with the process. So all the promises that INEC had given people, the works that had been done by multiple civil society organizations and individuals who had reconnected the people back to the PVC in the hope that we might be able to have genuine changes at the polls in deference to the yearnings and aspirations of a lot of Nigerians. So as far as Nigerians were concerned, Nigerians trooped out, they were engaged, but that is the point where elections ended. Citizens' engagement. And the word citizen is important, and we'll come back to it as I answer your question. So Nigerians were generally engaged, even in parts of Nigeria where they had given up on Nigeria. And it's not just in the Southeast. It's always very easy to identify the change movement with the Southeast, which is the home region of the candidate that came to symbolize the yearning and aspiration for change. But when you consider the fact that in places like Benue, in places like Plateau, in places like Yobe, in places like Borno, in places like Rivers, in Edo, in Delta, in vast parts of the Southwest itself, there was a palpable demand for a different direction, and the people came out like that. So you realize very quickly that where the system had not expected to find cohesion, they were shocked to find cohesion. Where the system had not expected that common purposes would be found, common purposes were found across the country. So the people, insofar as it relates to the 25th of February, demonstrated a willingness and a desire to live together as one and to change the system through the peaceful route offered by the electoral system. But that was where it ended. INEC proved to be exactly what it has always been, completely Nigerian. Nigerian in the sense of everything that has been bad with our country for a long time. It's preferred to be ruled by impunity instead of the guidelines and order that it had promised the Nigerian people. So in every way that it was possible for INEC to fail as an institution, it failed woefully. In the same environment, in a system where they are truly citizens, strictly so-called, in a system governed by law, Professor Yakubu, he should be in jail by now because of the multiple infractions of the guidelines that he himself publicly eulogized, sold to everybody from Nigeria to the international community. Straight down the line, we had multiple failures. These are already in the public space. And I speak as Dele Farotimi, a retired lawyer, in case you have forgotten. Now, in that failure, you had INEC servers, or whatever they called it, being switched off. You had beavers unable to transmit results, not because it is incapable of doing so, but because human beings decided to intervene, because if they allowed the system to work, the room for impunity would disappear. So everything the man promised he promised a Rolls Royce, but he didn't even deliver a jalopy. He delivered an omolanke, unfit for purpose. That is what the man has done at great cost. The money that he has just wasted, squandered, organizing the nonsense that he has now called an election, which is the point of departure with the 25th. I am careful, not because I am particularly respectful of any one of the many lying institutions, but because some people have elected to go to court. I am hoping that that court system will be the perfect place to unrobe the Nigerian state. I remember when we were talking after the NSAS, and I was explaining why we were going to the tribunal. I said it, and we're on record as saying that we didn't expect to get justice out of the system, but that since they had opened a tribunal, that we will go to that tribunal and use the tribunal to establish the fact that there was indeed a massacre. And we eventually used that tribunal, and kudos to the chairwoman of the tribunal. We used that tribunal, the same tribunal set up by the state, comprising of members only nominated by the state. We used that same tribunal to prove that the governor was lying. We used that tribunal to prove that the Nigerian police and the Nigerian army are institutional killers and liars. We used the same tribunal to unrobe the state to the point where you began to have inspectors discovering camcorders and things. So I am confident that the OB team at the tribunal would equally use the tribunal to unrobe INEC and different members of the debauched lot who sit in that place and pretend to be serving the country whilst they are ruining it and lining their own pockets. So insofar as it relates to the 25th of February, yes, the people did their part, and INEC failed them as it has always done. The police failed them as they always have, because the police stood by whilst thugs who work in tandem with governors. This is where I speak to the confluence of interest between the criminal elements. Sometimes, even now, you now know that the criminal elements and the traditional institutions in certain parts of the country are in bed with the state. So you have an unholy trinity, and the people are the constant victims. So yes, we had an election, we the people did. INEC ensured that our will has not been reflected.
Now, consider the fact that the credibility of that election had been called to question. A lot of Nigerians are quite skeptical about the next governorship and state houses in these elections.
Likely so.
There are widespread voter apathy, so to speak. And consider the fact that Nigerians are quite skeptical. They're afraid that their votes might not count, and that they're going to the poll again on Saturday will be a waste of time and effort.
Let me tell you this. If our votes would not count, we wouldn't have seen INEC as desperate as it was on the 25th. Our votes count. If our votes will not count, they will not be going around burning markets. If our votes will not count, they will not be busy buying all sorts of expired politicians to come back to their side so that they can. It's almost like football transfer season. You're having governorship candidates bought, political parties bought, but that should not offer any surprises to anyone. Instead of buying delegates, they were buying governors. So why should it surprise anybody that they are buying candidates who are not really candidates in any election, if the truth be told? How come that people who had a lot of negative things to say about them yesterday have suddenly become their friends today after they bought an extra week from INEC? You should understand that what they want is voters' apathy, because it is in the midst of voters' apathy that they are able to achieve their goal. No matter how much intimidation, no matter how, if they like, let them have 1,000 MC Mushroom Peking roaming the streets of Lagos. If the people are engaged in the process, if they are out in force and in number, and they are voting, the truth of the matter is that the powers of the MC Mushroom Pekins of this world are minimized when we turn out in our numbers. Refusing to come out and vote because you are afraid, you've been scared, you've been divided, you've been left disillusioned by what has happened, merely leaves the space open to those who had set out originally to ensure that that is exactly what you will do. Remember, in answering your earlier question, I pointed out that when we decided to go to the NSAS panel, for instance, we went there because we were convinced that we had preponderance of evidence to prove what we were saying about the culpability of the governor, the army, the police, and the state itself. So we used the venue provided by the government. Now, if we had ignored to go ab initio, we would have handed them the opportunity to do what they had hoped to do, which was to create the narrative and manage the narrative and have a show before the world and call it a tribunal. They would have had control of the narrative. And they had done a fantastic job, aided by multiple people that Nigerians would never have expected to find culpable in that kind of ignoble act. But they had the narrative already until Ramimba stepped in. Anyway, that's another story for another day. But in this election, our people must understand that if you do not buy the ticket, you cannot win a lottery. If you have given up ab initio that, oh, because of all the things they have done, because there is a possibility that they might be violent, because of these, there are always going to be 1,001 reasons not to come out. But understand this, not coming out validates the evil that you are running away from. You are going to live with it for the next 4 years. The ones that are scaring you away from voting, those ones will go to bed after the elections. The ones that are going to come to you will be the ones wearing bow ties and things. When they come, they will not be coming with cutlasses, but I guarantee you, you will be seeing all sorts of bills. Because those ones that are scaring you off now, including the bearded clowns, they make money from our collective misery. The one that I find funniest about all of this is the fact that the indigenes who are being coerced into celebrating Oro in these late hours, they are going to come through the toll gates that the system has built. They will pay the same amount as the people they are asking them to be afraid of. Nobody is going to discriminate as to who is passing through and how much that person is paying. The collapsed infrastructure that we have all endured for the last 24 years, it will remain. It's not the Igbo in Lagos State that has been digging up the roads that all of us are going through bad roads. When you leave your house in the morning, if you live in the Lekki-Ekpe axis, for instance, if you live at Aoyaya and your office is in VI, typically, that was where most people who went to buy land and have today built in that area, that's where they work, Ikoyi VI. It's a minimum of 3 hours. If you make the error of leaving your home later than 5 o'clock, it's about 4 hours just to get to work in the morning. It's not going to change simply because you revalidated a threat that you have received from those you should know are your true enemies. So when you look at the totality of what is at stake on Saturday, and what is at stake on Saturday is something that has never happened before. Let's be frank with ourselves. Lagos is important to the future of Nigeria on multiple levels. When Obasanjo was busy chasing Tinubu around in 2003, 2004, I warned at the time that Obasanjo was creating a monster that would bite everybody in the ass because he made Tinubu into some sort of opposition figure, a progressive politician. He helped him build his image, whilst the man had exceedingly rapacious policies stripping the people of Lagos State of their wealth and privatizing the Commonwealth, Obasanjo's overreach made it possible for him to operate without being challenged. Because it became, oh, he's the one challenging Obasanjo's running rampage all over the place. And he created this monster. The monster he created during his own tenure, when he should have focused on succession and obedience to the rule of law, credible elections, that monster is what is biting everybody today. So now, that monster is threatening to take over the seat of power in Abuja with his purchased mandate, a purchased mandate. That monster is now looking to use the instrumentality of hate, ethnic bigotry, in addition to religion, which he had long established as a basis for power, to retain power in the most important of all states in Nigeria. Maybe people don't understand this. Lagos is the fifth, either the fourth or the fifth largest economy in Africa. It doesn't have the fifth best school system. It does not have the fifth best rail system. It does not have the fifth best healthcare delivery system. It is not ranked fifth in anything good. And it has been the sole possession and toy of a man for 24 years. That man is now doing everything he can to retain possession of the state. Whether he burns it down completely before it is taken, or whether he is able to take it by foul means. He doesn't care. Power is to be, you grab it, you chase it. That is his concept of power. So Lagos State election on Saturday is beyond, it's not just about casting a ballot. It's about determining the future of a country. It's about deciding whether you are happy to be governed by what is essentially a criminal franchise, because that is what it is. A franchise that will deploy all manner of violence in order to retain power, that will deploy hatred in order to retain power. That is not, and it is not, that's not a political franchise, that's a criminal franchise.
Let's look at the efforts by the legal team in order to reclaim the mandate, so to say, the purchased mandate, so to say. Considering the litanies of legal failures of the Supreme Court and the fact that most Nigerians do not even repose any kind of confidence in the Supreme Court itself. We've seen the bureaucratic bottlenecks that the LP's presidential candidate and his legal teams are already, going through with regards to the election materials, and, questions are also being raised that with the stranglehold that these elements of criminal elements, so to speak, still have on the judiciary as well as on the executive arm of government and the Senate. Do you see anything coming out from the Supreme Court at all?
I would answer that question in two parts. I'll answer first as somebody with legal training, even though no longer a lawyer. I'll say, let the lawyers in the court have their day in the court. We're still at the preliminary stages of the search to take the mandate, the judicial processes. It's early stages yet. INEC, of course, has shown itself to be exactly what it is, a criminal enterprise looking to cover up its own tracks. So it's been as obfuscating as it possibly can be. It's been as incoherent as it possibly can be. It has stonewalled as much as it possibly can. I witnessed that personally as part of the team that went to the Lagos wreck a couple of days back. And I know what difficulties we encountered, even though as of today, we have been promised access and a team is already with them seeking to do that. But stepping out of the lawyer mode and speaking as a Nigerian now, remember that, and it's good that we have the example of NSAS to refer to. The government spent God knows how much money on all sorts of evil influencers to deny what happened at Lekki Toll Gate. It spent tremendous amount of money. It co-opted men who you would once have considered advocates of truth and justice. Corrupted. No, they didn't become corrupted yesterday. They'd been for a while. But they became part of that enterprise, all in a bid to deny the evil that they did. But those of us who spoke clearly as to the fact that there is no justice to be found, we were sufficiently confident in the amount of evidence that were in our possession. If you have gunshot victims, you have video evidence of what happened. We had preponderance of, as at the time we were coming out to say that there was a massacre, we had over 10 eyewitnesses whose testimonies we had recorded. And we recorded them separately and all tallied in material detail. We had physical evidence, we had photographic. So we were confident to come out and tell the government in the public that we dare them. I remember using that, I said we triple dare them. Let them set up that tribunal. And they did. And we used the instrumentality of the tribunal, even though we had expressed our lack of faith in the system. But because we were confident that nobody could deny what we had. They could not be denied. The rule of evidence is very clear, and it might be difficult for outsiders to see everything, but the tribunal saw it, and it was a unanimous decision of the tribunal, including persons nominated by the government who came from the Ministry of Justice, who have today been promoted to become judges in Lagos State. They saw the evidence, and unanimously, in the language of the tribunal, they said there was a massacre. So Jide Sanwo-Olu can continue lying that there wasn't one.
They attempted to discredit him.
That's up to him. What do you want a drowning man to say? He can lie all he wants. He lied so much that sometimes he forgets what the truth has become. Listen, the man who is telling you that there was nothing, he superintended the payment of 100 million naira to families of those who lost their lives and persons who survived with physical and emotional trauma. They paid in cash in 2 tranches of 50 million. So the same person will now come on here and he will be denying that anything happened, or he will be minimizing what happened. The tribunal is set up comprising of 7 or 9 members, nominated entirely by the government, unanimously said there was a massacre. So, but to relate it to the issue,
exactly.
The electoral tribunal, the presidential election tribunal would have no choice but to come to the same conclusion that INEC has stolen what does not belong to Bola Tinubu and handed it to him.
So, let's get this clear.
Yes.
Your party and the PDP have claimed victory for itself in the elections, accusing INEC of complicity in the emergence of Bola Tinubu as the winner of that election.
Yes.
We are now at a point where critics of INEC have continued to reject that result, dredging up what is considered to be evidence of how the election was compromised.
Yes.
The question that is still yet to be answered or remains unanswered, and I'd like to get your perspective on this.
Yes.
Nigerians would like to get your perspective.
Yes.
That if you observe the irregularities in that elections, are they substantial enough to have produced a different result?
Okay. You see, there is this dangerous thing that we do in our country. We ignore the issue, and then we set up straw man arguments to distract from the issue. The issue is this: was there an election worthy of his name conducted on the 25th of February? And incidentally, I think it is a little misleading and playing into the preferred narrative of the evil system to suggest that it is only the PDP and the Labour Party that are complaining about the result or rejecting the result of the last election. The fact that those two are the ones that have been decreed second and third might tend to lend credence to what you have said, because they are the more credible voices to demand anything of the electoral body in view of the manifest widespread nature of the electoral fraud that were perpetrated.
But the other parties have not claimed to have won in that election.
Now, they have look, this thing is simple. I'll show you one. We had persons on the ground in Maiduguri during the election. There is no news channel in this country that carried the news that the Monday market in Maiduguri was set on fire, and it kept burning until Monday before the fire brigade would do anything about it. What was it? What was their crime? They voted Labour Party. In places where INEC result was showing 000, we knew what transpired in those places. In places where nobody expected Labour Party to win, Labour Party won. But Labour Party won because it became the symbol for those whom Nigeria had disenfranchised. Those whose voice had been silenced for so long, who nobody hears. I'll show you one. Southern Bauchi, and I'm saying this from having seen all sort of figures and stuff that have been posted. I've also seen some raw figures in some other. In Southern Bauchi, from only 4 polling units, Peter Obi got more votes in 4 polling units in Bauchi South than was declared for him in the whole of Bauchi. No, in the whole of Bauchi South. I'm using Bauchi South, not South. Okay. No, not the whole of Bauchi. Only 4 polling units in Bauchi South gave him more votes than was declared for him in the entire Bauchi South. If you go to a state like Rivers, the governor was so desperate in his desire to deliver the state to APC that he was careless about getting caught in multiple acts, himself directly or his agents there on video. In Ajegunle, Ali Zatueji, the Labour Party candidate, recorded direct tipexing, criminal act by an officer sworn by law not to do exactly what he was doing. So you're not dealing with a few irregularities. You're dealing with a situation where INEC deliberately subverted its own system in order to achieve a predetermined outcome. These will be proven before the court, because I know we can prove it. That Peter Obi is saying, and our campaign is saying that he won, is not based on figures plucked from the air. What INEC has done might be likened to when somebody steals something bigger than it can carry, than he or she can carry. They have stolen the product, yes, but they can't take it away, because their own evidence, the evidence in their own hands, proves that they are lying. That's why the law courts are there. When the evidence are being presented to the law courts, the Nigerian people, of course, would have the benefit of seeing these evidences themselves. When we went before the Lekki tribunal, Nigerians saw the evidences now. So it's not something that is shrouded in secrecy. INEC will be unrobed before the Nigerian people.
Why INEC has to be held to its promise to deliver a technology-driven and malpractice-proof election? There's still so much criticism about INEC's effort to redeem itself or its image as far as the March 2050 election is concerned.
See,
will INEC have the local standards to redeem itself?
You know, little men tend to focus on material gain. And Mahmoud Yakubu is a little man. He's a very little man. He's a Lilliputian. He might have acquired degrees and diplomas, but unfortunately he has very little understanding of life, of the purpose of life. His problem is he should be a man in his late 50s or early 60s now, so he can't live as long as he has already lived. He should be focused on legacy, about what history would say of him. If it is a repetition of what happened on the 25th of February, it will go down in history as the most corrupt, inept, and useless head of INEC. It is up to him to determine and decide how he wishes to be remembered. I don't know what his inducement was, whether it was based on some religious consideration or whether it was a function of filthy lucre. Whatever it is known to him and it is known to God. What I do know is this: history will record that Nigerians were very hopeful on the 25th of February. He and the institution that he leads, INEC, dashed the hope of a lot of Nigerians. It's not about losing an election. No, it's not about losing an election. If we had contested an election and lost the election, and the will of the Nigerian people had been reflected in the outcome of the election, it would be a correct way to gauge where we are as a people. And then the opposition will know what it needs to do and where it needs to do those things in relation to the people who would have delivered their verdict and their mandate. But in a situation where you had institutionalized and systemic stupidity disguised as rigging, such as the one that just took place, it's entirely up to Yakubu to decide whether he wants to go down in history as an idiot or as an hero. It's entirely his call.
Thanks for watching. Thank you. Until Buhari win at the Supreme Court, his victory is temporary.
Serious house cleaning. As we continue to track that developing story, we are now being joined for a quick chat by the elder statesman himself, Chief Ayo Adebanjo. Good afternoon and great to see you again. Welcome to Newsday.
Welcome to our channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Now, sir, you've made your position clear on the outcome of the presidential election. You believe the Labour Party's Peter Obi won the election and you are in support of his legal battle to reclaim his mandate, so to speak. But Prof has rejected this position, given the impression that Afenifere is not united and that a faction, your faction, is acting unilaterally. Can you speak to us on this?
Mr. Chebutokwe, I have refused to be engaged in that controversy. If Fashionati is not too old to get people to fractionalize the party, I am too old to be involved in that type of thing now. It's a closed chapter. If people believe there's faction, there's no faction in the party. I've made that one clear. The man is a past leader of the party. His function official. Those who want to use him to split the party are just making use of him. Those are the people who have opposed him till now. They want to make use of him. I don't want any diversion on this issue. We have taken a stand. If people believe in the party, let them follow them. I'm not in that controversy at all. As far as Afenifere is concerned, we have closed that chapter. We have made our case known to the party. We have told you he has resigned, and that's closed chapter. That's what we are discussing now. The country is going to blazes. You are now saying, I support you, I don't support you. If you support him, carry on. I've taken my stand, you have taken your stand. And you press when you continue to say fraction. Don't refer to me as a fractional leader. I am the leader of the party, de facto and de jure. If there's any fractional principle, I don't attend to it. Don't bring any question about the faction. These are the people I don't want to be involved in this controversy at all. It will change the narrative. The position I have taken the reasons. I want them to address the reason why I support him and why I don't support him. Whether you do this or that, that's not my business. That's an affair of the party. And as far as we are concerned, we have solved that problem. The position is they are very that I lead, and there's no faction. If anybody wants to be involved in this petty discussion, I'm not involved in this.
Okay, well, let's move on. But just before that, you were referring to Afenifere as a party. I'm sure you meant socio-cultural group, just for clarification.
But no, Afenifere is to talk about get your question clear. I often make this position clear every time. Afenifere is a political party with the ministry banned during the British era, and we adopted the local name of Afenifere ever since. We are political, cultural, and whatever it is, but we are political party ab initio, national, with definite political ideology of federalism and welfare state, which we demonstrated in the Western region in the 50s, which made the landmark of our Lord regime, which is the standard bearer, or this classic example of a standard administration of a Nigerian, of an African. In the whole of the terrorists now, our Lord regime was action group, which is Afenifere. So don't say it's a cultural something. Those who want to say it's a Yoruba man when they want to make use of it, that's their affair. We are a very political party, national.
All right, thank you so much for that clarification.
As the catchment area, let that one be clear.
All right, thank you, sir, for the clarification. Okay, I also want to talk about the suspension of the publicity secretary and the organizing secretary of the group. That's Mr. Jare Ajayi and Kole Omololu. Now, the Ondo State chapter of Afenifere says their suspension violates the group's principles, as they were never reported for any wrongdoing. They did not face any disciplinary committee.
My dear Chief Tokwe, I've told you, I don't know about any Ondo chapter. There's no Ondo chapter in Afenifere. I don't know about them. And if anybody wants to believe in them, carry on. We have suspended them, and if they say they can carry on, I don't want to be dragged to that controversy now.
All right.
We are focused on our issue.
Okay, Pa Adebanjo, I want to move the discussion away from Afenifere just for a quick moment. You have said multiple times who it is that you support in the presidential elections and how dire the situation was for the nation. As we see, the cards have played out, and President-elect Bola Tinubu is soon to take office. What could this incoming APC government and President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what could he do in order to get your approval?
I will be 95 years old on the 10th of April in a few days' time. I'm not doing this politics to be in office or to get anything. All those who are fighting for offices now, if we go be win, they get this. That is not mine. What I'm fighting for is what we fought, what we want Nigeria to be at independence with the founding fathers. That's what I'm fighting for. I'm not fighting for convenience. We say we are having an election. The Constitution says this one must be done. And the Constitution says if you are not satisfied, go to the tribunal. That's what we are following. So those of you are already accepting that because one stage of the election has been performed, therefore come and rally around. I don't take platform for convenience. I am one politician in Nigeria. I have no rival. And I make a research. If there's any Nigerian living today who has been in one party for over 70 years, let him come out. These are how people are just changing party when it's convenient because he has won a temporary victory. You now say, what will you do for him? No. As far as I'm concerned, he has not won until fought the battle to the end at the Supreme Court. Then can discuss. We are saying the way he won there is faulty. It's fraudulent. You are not discussing that. You want to say, well, so in other words, you are now telling me that each time we want to do an election now, let us come out with all the brutality you can do. Whoever wins will be accepted. So everybody will now be accepted. Come around, come around. I am sorry and I'm ashamed of some of the so-called intelligentsia who are doing politics now, who are saying that he has not won. But those of us who have gone to court don't believe that he has won. We are disputing his election. And if you are talking about what to do, if he has won a free, fair, and credible election, that is the time to talk of what do we do to come together. The way of his coming to office is questionable, is condemnable all over the world. And you want us to acquiesce to that now because he has stolen my property, he has gone away with it. I am chasing him to get it. Say, no, before you get it, just tell him that what will you give out of the property? No. It applies to people of this country. You are looking focus. You are losing morality. You are looking principle. You are not addressing the issue. And only you pressmen who talk of no violence, no violence. No, we are not preaching violence. And if you obey, who has gone to court, he said, no, I don't question your anointing me. I am questioning the process. Let us address that. If the process is fair, is it according to the Constitution? Is it according to the electoral law? Is there no violence? Those are the issues. What are the issues that both local and foreign advisors are complaining about that? The election is not the standard that is expected. So this system that has been condemned by all reasonable people in the whole world, you want us to acquiesce to it. And so you carry on, forget the past. I don't belong to that school of thought. I don't believe he has won the election acceptable for me to be able to cooperate or to do any suggestion. I am still disputing the method of his nomination, of his announcement as the president. When I pursued all the constitutional means to question that appointment and confirm that he is, then I can talk of any reconciliation or something.
All right, thank you very much for that.
It is that issue that the people should address. I don't belong to the Yoruba. So, oh, it's a Yoruba man. No, now that he's here gone. No. This is not a Yoruba issue.
Now, the Department of State Security Services, that's the DSS, they've confirmed that indeed there is a plot to set aside the Constitution and install an interim government by what they termed misguided political actors. Can you speak to that, sir?
Thank you very much. And I want to speak to you, to the police, and to the authorities in this country, including Buhari. The DSS in particular, does he believe anybody trusts them? I don't, and you should do it in view of the evidence. Are they in existence to tell us that danger is coming? Or they are in existence to inform the police to say danger is coming and the police to go and take action? What are we making us in this country? What is DSS taking us for? If they are not ashamed of themselves, I'm very ashamed of them. They should take us as tomfoolery. Yes, a DSS telling us danger is coming. When your duty is to gather the information of danger, inform the police, for the police to arrest the people. Not proaction, to prevent any damage to the country. That's why you are a secret police. What I don't know, what you don't know, that's what we employ you for. To say it and take action through the police. Not to another danger is coming. What do you want us to do? To raise the tempo? I am ashamed. One, that's the aspect of it. And I suspect the announcement is suspect. They have an agenda they have not told us. My view, it is an attempt to arrest leaders of the opposition if they are trying to do protest, which is constitutional. And they say, oh yes, because you want to do this. If anybody want to do anything anti-government, and you have the facts, produce the evidence, and go to charge them to court. No matter how such is God. That is what you exist for. You don't exist to tell us that danger is coming. You exist to tell those who are responsible to prevent the danger to take action. Not for you to raise to create terror in the country, telling us that danger is coming when that's what you are supposed to prevent. And therefore, and again, is it who has that question?
Yes.
How far has this DSS been acting on information? The information they gave them, how far they acted on it? The one that Comrade now told us that those who are behind Boko Haram, that was since 2017. It was a super DSS Department of the Military, Commander Laoni. It is one of your program or channel. He said Buhari set up a private DSS inquiry to find out who are those behind Boko Haram. I have said it on the program before. And they gave them the list. Their own DSS, they gave the list to Buhari. And he said about the list are present ministers in his cabinet, are present governors in the government. He has said it several times. I have repeated it. Have they arrested anybody? Besides, the Attorney General told us openly that they have a list of 200 names who are behind Boko Haram. Have you heard them since then? This is the DSA talking now, want to raise an alarm. So they exist to be raising an alarm and then putting us in fear. I'm ashamed. They should go for further training to know what to do about it.
Well,
they are not credible.
Chief
and
of...
they are put on very inefficient.
Right. Allow me to interrupt you just for the sake of time, sir. Sorry, we just have a little bit more time. And
what about those who demonstrated violence and all that during the election?
Right, Chief, right.
The man in Lagos, have they arrested them?
Chief Adebanjo.
There comes some people want to do this. So.
I'm wondering if you can hear me. I apologize for cutting you off. We only have a certain amount of time, and we have quite a few things to pick your brain about. And you were speaking about the opposition parties, the Labour Party and the PDP. Now they are they've taken the electoral cycle to court. What are your expectations, and how do you assess the grounds that they both have taken to court with their individual cases? Is it strong enough in your opinion? And how difficult do you think it would be to prove their own sides within this current judiciary?
Thank you very much. That is what the Constitution says. That is what we are doing. Until we see the end, I believe in the judiciary. Although the judiciary should know what the public thinks about them. But I'm a legal practitioner. If I don't believe in the judiciary, then that's my means of living. I believe in them. But I know it is the duty of the judiciary to justify the confidence that the people have in them. If what the people are saying about them is equal, I won't be part of that until I have there are instances to create doubt. But I won't join them because people see the law according to what the evidence before them. My belief is what Obi is doing. He believes he won the election and he said, I will prove it. Where do you prove it? At the tribunal. So that's where we are going. And I will say, let them both the tribunal and the Supreme Court to make it public hearing, televise it, and let us see all the evidence before. Put the evidence before the public opinion. Wherever they decide that, we will know. So, in the meantime, the destiny, the future of the country, the stability of the country is in the hands of the judiciary. They will either break the country or consolidate it. Our hope is in them according to the Constitution. And we have our hope in them. Those who are having their doubt, I want them to prove them, I want you to prove them wrong.
Thank you very much.
And Obi and we have confidence in them until we get to the end of the Supreme Court. We don't believe there is a legitimate president, which is, and I say the Constitution allows that if you are not satisfied with the election, go to the, and that's what they tell us. Why are they now afraid that we are going to court? We say they don't do the thing right. They say we don't go through the electoral law and all that. It is the court that we are going to prove that. So there is no quarrel. If the authority will do their job, if the DSS and the police will not be a collusion to the disharmony in the country, if they do their job, there will be no problem.
All right,
You
sir.
cannot have peace without justice.
Chief Adebanjo, I'd like us to talk about another issue, which is how divisive and tense the...
We are free.
How divisive and tense...
You are free to ask any question.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to talk about how divisive and tense the 2023 general election was. You've already made it clear, that is, Afenifere has already made it clear that Yorubas are not at war with the Igbos. But we know that a number of prominent Nigerians made very inflammatory comments. They've not been arrested, they've not been prosecuted. We don't know if there are any plans, to do that. But I'd like to know, how can we curb divide and rule politics going forward? How can we be nationalistic in thinking instead of tribalistic?
I have got your answer to the question. The answer is at your door. That is what I was telling the DSS. Prominent Yorubas who are making inflammatory statements, arrest them, prosecute them. That's what we are saying. If you are not in collusion, that's what I'm saying, repeating it. That's what I was trying to develop when you said you are. Thank you very much. That's the only way to stop it. When you see a crime being committed and you don't punish it, it encourages anybody to do the same thing. The question of police imprisonment or a fine is to serve as a deterrent. But you have people who have committed obvious crime in the presence of the police. Look at the DSS now talking. Are they not president? Are they not president and the police when they are carrying out the ballot boxes in the federal election and the governorship election? These are the people that want to talk for people to say they are doing their job. Let them do their job honestly, without fear or favor, without peace. That's the only way to keep the country together. If you are talking of the peace and all that, and you turn the blind eye when somebody is doing something anti-unity of the country, you are not serious. So the solution is that let the authorities go after those who are doing anti-Nigerian unity. It should deter others. Any Yoruba prominent man doing that, arrest him. If I had never does it, put him in jail in spite of his age. And if only about does it, to try him. Don't turn a blind eye. That's the question. The moment that is done, there will be peace. And then Yahya said this, Yahya said that, trying to draw wool and go. Everybody listen to that radio, that video. I listen to it. The man said that's a political rascal. The people who did the damage in Lagos, are they not Yorubas? Are they not rascal? Then he says the whole of Yorubas, as if we are dummies. We went to school and we have certificate that can show. And our school we went, you can say it. The school and university we go. So you can't draw any rule against us. The man spoke in English, and we all listen to it. And then they said the whole of the Yorubas trying to cause. It's unfortunate. That's one of the problems. Oh. People deliberately want to cause disharmony. You know them, you turn a blind eye, and you are now looking for, hey, if somebody want to do a Chinese government, oh, I'm warning you, lazy people, inefficient people.
Well,
people should be ashamed to say they are in office. The whole of DSS are condemnable.
Chief.
They are one of those doing damage to this country.
Chief.
Without doing their job with
Thank you, Chief.
Independent, without any fear or favor.
Well, Chief Adebanjo. Chief, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you can hear me, sir. We have expended our time. It is always great to have these discussions with you. It's a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and happy early birthday, as you told us that your birthday is in April. Hopefully we will speak to you before then. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Please don't forget to follow my page, COE Temple of the Truth Media.
Trying to be good followers, good citizens, and doing our bits to make the country work. So you know that after so many years on television, I decided to go a little quiet so I can also listen to others. And I'm surprised I've been called out here today. I thought I could.
Yeah, duty calls. I have to say thank you for accepting to come
Absolutely.
out.
Well, I have to, because when colleagues like you
services were sufficiently concerned to swing into action, launching one of their biggest ever raids nationwide and arresting 25 people. In stark contrast, Nigeria's secret intelligence police, the Department of State Services, or DSS, has turned its concerns over plots to destabilize Nigeria into screamingly sensational headlines that read like something out of a spy from taking place in May.
These are very weighty and heavy allegations that they presented without evidence. We salute the DSS for their service to the nation. Now it's very, very, very difficult time in this country that requires wisdom. And I don't see wisdom in what the statement is set out. What is the purpose of the statement? You should be talking to the DGSSS for them to explain to Nigerians what they mean by that.
Well, we certainly have tried.
Yeah, I know. But the point is, what is the purpose? At a time when millions of Nigerians are aggrieved after a flawed election, and I have been on record saying it's flawed in real time, even before the result was announced. And here you are, the screamy part of a ruling party, throwing a lot of inciting things. People are aggrieved. Now is the time for sane people to come in and calm people's nerves, not for an intelligence agency to come out and tell the world, oh, we know. There are some people trying to literally overthrow the government and install an interim government. Who are these people? In the UK, does MI5 come and say, oh, we know there are people and walk away? Or in the United States, the FBI say, we know there are people and walk away?
Nevertheless, I mean, you're not disagreeing with the DSS and its role as keeper of the peace and law and order, because, I mean, you mentioned America. We saw how the FBI moved in when in the US attempts were made to storm Congress and prevent the certification of the presidential election.
Right. So DSS, don't come and tell us we know you're going. It's like EFCC coming to tell us we are keeping an eye on thieves stealing money. That's not what we want to hear. What we want to hear is what you have done and how you can reassure Nigerians. Now, what do you want Nigerians to do? Be fearful? Another answers insurrection is coming? What are you doing about it? So that's not wise. If there are people, truly there is a plot to do what you're saying they're doing, go get them. That's what you're paid to do.
But does the fact that the allegation is coming from the DSS make it more credible and therefore more alarming? Or are you one of those who believes that the DSS is a cooperating part of the ruling party and has simply tapped into their wishes to scare away those who continue to question the legitimacy of the election result and who might want to exercise their right to peaceful
Good.
protest?
I have a lot of respect for the DSS, but they have not reassured me that what they are doing is without prejudice. I looked at what they were saying, that the method they say these suspects are going to use to incite riots across several cities in the country, like NSAS, which they failed. They failed to preempt. NSAS was essentially an intelligence failure. So is the DSS trying to overcorrect for their failure of NSAS insurrection? Another thing they're saying, or the second method these guys are going to use is frivolous lawsuits.
Yes, I was coming to
right.
that.
So who is the DSS? Is the DSS qualified to say any case is frivolous? That's not in the, they should drive within their lane. It's not up to them to say a case is frivolous or not. It's not. So they are driving into somebody else's lane. Essentially, this is the way I see it. Number one or two things. Number one is that they are trying to rattle the cage and scare whoever they think they want to scare. Or number two, they are following the toe line of the APC. Because the APC, the screaming part of the APC, were the ones who started this idea of interim government. One even was saying the coup. And it was the same DSS that invited him for invitation. Oh, now all of a sudden the DSS is towing that line. Say, oh, the interim, then DSS, when did you know this? Did you know this after the screaming part of APC started saying this? So you are towing the line of the ruling party, number one. Number two, you are essentially, and I looked at what they were saying, they were even warning or advising the judiciary not to. So you're telling people the right to protest in a democracy is enshrined in our constitution. We see what's happening in France. We see what's happening currently in Israel. Democracy is messy. People have the right to protest and agitate.
Absolutely.
Within legal terms. So the DSS, what I see is, are they using whatever they're saying as an alibi to go after people or to stop people from doing that which the Constitution gives them the power to do.
Which is a peaceful protest.
Absolutely, peaceful protest.
And
Anywhere in
also
this
the right
country.
to go to court.
Absolutely, the right to go to court, the right to peaceful protest is theirs. And that is what this DSS statement is coming out to tell us. Oh, they are going to protest, or they are going to court. Hello, this is the right of every citizen to do that. And all the parties that are aggrieved with this election have taken their cases to court. And we have been telling our supporters all along to remain prayerful and calm.
In fact, I have to say that I would commend the opposition for the way that they have kept the lid on the disenchantment that rocked this country and I think continues to rock the country.
And it honestly has not been easy.
I can imagine.
And it's made worse by these people that think they've won the election coming out to make insightful statements. I do not see an adult coming to tell them, hey, shut up. We have business to do. We have a nation to heal. This is not the time to make this inciting statement. And DSS, do your job. Don't get into politics. People have the right to go to court. People have the right to protest anywhere in this country. And do not criminalize all of these. And we are watching very closely. This should not be a threat to Nigerians to do what the Constitution gives them the right to do. All we are telling our people is do things according to the law. And it's in the courts. The judiciary will do the right thing. And nobody, no agency will tell the courts what is frivolous. It's not within the purview of any security agencies to tell them that. So
but
it's wrong.
Are there concerns within opposition ranks, certainly the branch of the opposition, there's the PDP, that these kinds of statements from the DSS might actually make the judiciary a little bit nervous?
No, I don't think so. The judiciary cannot be rattled by this. The judiciary has been around longer than the DSS. They are honorable men and women, and the eyes of the world is on them. They have a weighty responsibility.
Well, the eyes of the world have been on them in the past.
Well, this time around more than ever before.
Right.
This nation it's on the tenterhooks. Now is not the time for this kind of statement. They know, DSS knows how to do their job quietly without coming out. What I see is this eye service, what in Nigeria we call eye service. The next government is coming, oh, let's show you we are doing something for you. No. The DSS, you are not for any party. You are to protect the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and its citizens, not any particular party. The person that is said to have won this election by 8,000, and there are 82,000 registered eligible voters, so 10%. This is not the time to go and, this is the time to pull everybody together, to bring the healing and calming and soothing.
Well, they could make the argument that that's what they're doing.
Who is?
The DSS. They could make the argument to say that they're trying to prevent the lid from being taken off
not at all.
the cauldron.
Not at all. They are muddling the water. They're telling, oh, there are some people trying to do bad things. Oh, we saw them meeting at night. Don't tell us this. Just go do it. Get them. You remember that Nike, the logo of Nike? This thing is just do it. What is all this talk? Just go and do your work and tell Nigerians, we cut this guy because of this, and this is the evidence we are taking them to court. This serves no purpose at all. At all. It's making people more jittery and it's making people more angry and thinking that the DSS is working for the ruling party, not Nigeria.
Meanwhile, we're seeing protests. I mean, we have seen protests little protests here and there for and against Bola Tinubu's election in parts of Nigeria. Do you think things like that are heating things up and adding to the tension as May 29th approaches?
No, and you know, this is normal. Absolutely normal. If there is no protest, then you will say, where is everybody? People should protest, but do it peacefully. For and against Bola Tinubu and whoever else you want to protest against. everything is before the courts. And people will accept whatever the courts say. And this is how democracies are ruled. We are a nation flaws. With all our flaws, we must protect the territorial integrity and our democracy that many people have died for. Nobody will come, either security agencies or politicians, reckless politicians, come and destroy what we've built. Over the last 24 years, people have died for this. And this country, people have shed their blood. Many were left on the battlefield for us to be the Nigeria we are today. Nobody is going to destroy this country where we'll all sit down with, be it a politician or a reckless politician. That's why we're here. We raise our voices, we tell people, just calm down. It's not the end of the world. This thing is before the courts. This thing will be adjudicated.
It's interesting that through all this, including all the ethno-religious rumbles, President Buhari has maintained an almost sepulchral silence. Is it time for him to speak and try to calm things down?
Good luck. President Buhari never speaks. Never ever speaks. Allow him just to rest his few days, he's watching the clock, and he gets off the stage.
But are you concerned by the ethno-religious rumbles?
Yeah, very concerned. I mean, I wrote an article about the danger, the national security implications of religion and ethnicity coming into politics. And we're seeing that. We saw what happened in Lagos. I mean, this country was this close. Lagos would have exploded if they allowed rascals to destroy this country. You don't allow that. People have lived in peace for generations, and reckless politicians will come and destroy what many have died for. They need to be called to order, and that is the duty, and one of the duties and responsibilities of the DSS. Not to come and tell us things are happening, but to even have found out how these elections were rigged all over the place and stopped them. And the national security implications of same-faith tickets, excluding a large population of Nigerians. And now we are back to my fear. I mean, I'm old enough, I've lived, alhamdulillah, I've lived 62 going to 63 in this country. We've seen ethnic, we've seen regional, and we are now seeing, thanks to all these politicians from the president in 2011 till now, they have been injecting religion into this. From bringing pastors into this, from going to churches, from doing the same faith ticket. My fear is Nigeria cannot stand a religious war. See what's happened in Lebanon? Beautiful city, beautiful country, beautiful people. 15 years of war, civil war.
So people would say that the bigger concern right now appears to be ethnic rather than religious.
It's the same. It depends on where you are. In the Southwest, religion is not as big. In the Southeast is ethnicity. In the North is religion. That was why they did the Muslim to divide to divide Muslims from Christians. So it's all divisive from day one. It's not winning the election, that's the easy part. But coupling together a fractured nation at a time like this, when we have not seen this much insecurity, when we have not seen this much poverty, and this much animosity across all 6 geopolitical zones, it requires somebody who can stitch this nation back together.
I know you said that, that what you just said kind of refocuses attention on President Buhari. I mean, you said he should just be allowed to kind of, stroll away. But no matter how this contested election and how this period ends, how much is it likely to be a stain on President Buhari's legacy?
Right. I mean, his legacy, we have seen in the last 8 years has been. I mean, I'm tired of speaking about this government and their failings. That we're just leaving them to the history, to the verdict of history and God Almighty. He said he's done his part.
So let's not look back, let's look forward.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on the transition?
On the transition, if you ask me, the transition so far has been messy. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. You now see a transition that is contentious. A person who is said to have gotten only less than 10% of the total registered vote. 8 million votes in a country where 82 million registered, in a country of 200 million. So it's not an election that is contested. What gives any government legitimacy is the free, fair, and credibility of an election. And this is questioned. Legitimacy internationally, nationally and internationally. You need to read all the New York Times, London Times, and all the foreign publications, how they are not very complimentary of the way the elections were held.
Well, I was going to actually ask you, now that you look back a month after that election, what's your post-mortem assessment?
My post-mortem assessment is, number one, INEC did not handle this election well. It didn't. In spite of all the chairman and the agency promised. They promised repeatedly, again and again, this thing will be transmitted in real time. It didn't happen. I was here on the day it was collated. Nobody talked about beavers on the day of the presidential election. So transmission was, and there are allegations that some shenanigans were done before they came to Abuja. And this will be proven in the courts. We're not going back to relitigate that. The courts will do that for us. But the election umpire, we've lost faith in the election umpire. I mean, an umpire, democracy is dependent on the umpire. If people have lost faith in the umpire, that is a great risk to democracy. Not this telltale DSS is telling us. Before we get there, if this was a free, fair, and credible election, DSS would not have had to come and talk about this. It would have been clean.
Yeah, given that this is, the election is in court, whatever the outcome, how should Nigeria proceed from here? What's the way forward?
Right, and it depends on the leaders that come in. That's why I say leadership matters. You need to bring people, not this kind of people that are sending inciting and provocative statements that are annoying the hell out of everybody. Show you're a leader. Reach out to everybody. I agree, majority of Nigerians did not vote for me, but I'm a leader for all, and I will show it.
Well, to be fair, he has suggested that.
Who?
Well, Bola Tinubu.
I'm not talking about Bola Tinubu. I'm
Who
talking about whoever comes.
Well, let's leave that one hanging, shall we? Prof, I want to thank you very much indeed. It's always an enormously enlightening experience talking with you. Professor Usman Yusuf is a noted public policy expert, supporter of Atiku Abubakar and the main opposition PDP.
God bless you, everyone.